everybody out there in YouTube world. I'm going to grab my drink. So what am I enjoying tonight? Quiet nights. As I have been many nights for the last week or 2 weeks. Homemade sizer, the last of it. Still delicious. Doesn't really go well with quiet nights though. That's unfortunate. So the reason I am doing this live is hopefully make it short. And to say thank you to Ziggy Num Nums out of Chicago for his delightful pork, broth, tonkatsu, food porn that looked like a very delicious egg. 7-minute egg with the runny yolk. Runny oak. Yeah. I'm not sure what on the mind. I haven't had a decent bowl of ramen in a few months now. And honestly, I didn't have any good ramen for quite a few years before that. Bowl was about halfway. So I live in a college town. It's we have 3 universities: Western, K College, KVCC. We used to have one of those Davenport places, but I think that was shut down from like fraud or something. Not one single ramen place in the entire city. Nothing on campus. We have plenty of these chintzy, uh, so-called Chinese restaurants. Really hard to find good Chinese. So, in my quest to have some good ramen, I bought a couple of cookbooks. Um, Ramentopia was one of them. There were a couple of others. And I spent several weeks actually just making broth. Tonkatsu, shio, miso. I even tried making a beef broth, which isn't traditional Japanese, but I wanted to play around with it, see what could happen. Before before white people showed up, beef wasn't really big on the um, menu, you could say, in Japan. Small island, cattle like that. For one, cows are valuable for plowing rice fields, so you don't want to eat them. And they take a lot of land for grazing, which Japan does not have a lot of. So, of course, ramen isn't really, you could say it's not traditional Japanese food. Um, there's a great podcast by David Chang. Um, it's his most recent one. And they talk about real traditional Japanese cuisine. And it was a phenomenal episode. and ramen came out. Well, first there was the ramen noodle, the freeze dried ramen noodle. No, it was post World War II. Then came the ramen shops. I think last I knew, Tokyo by itself had, I think, 20,000 different ramen shops in the city. If I ever get to New York, I do want to go to Ivan Ramen. It's a goal of mine. Also, would love to go to Momofuku. That one's got a nice burn going. I've been rubbing this out lately before packing it. Getting a more consistent burn on it. So it is Friday night. Over a Pipe did his Friday ramble. Is that what it is? Was discussing Burt Reynolds dying. To me, he will always be the Bandit from Smokey and the Bandit. That's where I knew him from growing up. And I just recently, I think it was within the last year, saw Boogie Nights for the first time. Don't hate me. Apparently, it's a very accurate depiction of what the adult film industry was like during the 1970s. If you care to know what it's like today, the was it? Oh, what's his name? Brett Easton Ellis has a podcast, and he has a two-part interview with James Dean discussing what the industry is like now. But I think it's like anything else, always evolving. Haven't seen the latest documentary by oh shoot, what is her name? Um, it was called Hot Girls Wanted. I haven't seen that yet. Hmm. So tomorrow, going to a book signing. Um, Local illustrator slash author David Small is signing copies of his new graphic novel. If you've never read his first one called Stitches, I highly recommend it. You should pick it up, or at least find it at your local library. It's an autobiographical piece. He did a really awesome presentation at the library a few years back when that book came out. And I was instantly a fan, but it turns out that that was his first graphic novel, and until then, he had only illustrated children's books. Joe Rogan had an interesting guy, I think his name was Sharp, running as a libertarian candidate for New York governor. He had some interesting ideas. One was that they kept going back and forth on. I kind of felt like Rogan had smoked a little too much uh, ganja before, because I felt like a lot of the questions he was asking was stuff that had already been answered. And then Rogan would back up and say, well, what about this? And the guy's like, I already answered that, and this is how you would do it. Yeah, but. And that was kind of annoying. That went on for like an hour. It was funny to learn on NPR that Elon Musk, Tesla's stock dropped by, I think it was like 16% after he smoked a joint with Joe Rogan on air live. That one I didn't quite understand. He's in a state where it's completely legal, completely 100% legal, except for, the feds. He tries it for the first time in years. Didn't seem to, I don't know, the guy talks really slow, kind of almost in a Jordan Peterson type of way where he takes a few seconds. You're wondering if your phone had stopped for some reason. There's a spider that is like trying to, he's hanging out in the middle of the porch, trying to get him to go back up. So, yeah. Elon Musk. Now, that is an interesting dude. Guys like that make guys like me feel absolutely lazy. I thought it was really creative how he called his flamethrower, "This is not a flamethrower," just to get past um, some laws when shipping them to other countries. Hello, viewer, whoever you are, was discussing Ziggy Yum Yum's recent uh, ramen shop visit and how jealous I was while smoking some quiet nights and enjoying some cider. A mead and hard cider mix in this beautiful night. Although I will be drinking that after I finish this pipe because the spiciness of this tobacco is not going well with the sizer. So I hear people are still debating as to who wrote the infamous explosive article about the White House. I, for one, still think it's John Kelly, although a lot of people are looking at Mike Pence. That'd be interesting. I think the last president to fire the vice president was Nixon. Huh. But we did get Gerald Ford out of the whole debacle. So who knows? Another Michigander, another football player. That was one thing that Over a Pipe was talking about with Burt Reynolds, which I had completely forgotten about. There was actually quite a bit that I didn't know about old Burt until he passed away. I give him a lot of credit for making hairy men sexy. It helped me out. Not at all. Wrong generation. said I grew up with a bunch of guys either that never hit puberty or like shaved their body hair. Or, yeah, I never quite knew what to think of those guys, which is like the majority of guys I went to high school with. It's like, didn't you already wait like 20 years to become a man, and now you're like trying to go back to being 12? So I was watching this interesting channel earlier today called Entrepreneurs in Cars. It's a group of guys that are basically um, male activists, male men's rights activists, I would say. I guess that's how I would explain it. And they were discussing if they had the question, is the latest thigh tattoo that women get, is that the new tramp stamp? Viewers, place your vote. I, for one, would have to agree because I think the tramp stamp by itself was really just a fad. And I think the thigh tattoo is just a fad. But one of the guys made a statement that hot chicks with tattoos is like putting bumper stickers on a Lamborghini. I don't know how I feel about that one. So, speaking of ramen, the one shop that I do get to go to occasionally is in Grand Rapids. It's called Sapporo. I would have to disagree with that. Oh, Beardless Gnome Joe, as a fan of tattoos in general. All right, respectful opinion. I only have two tattoos, because if I spend too much time debating on getting one, if I have an idea, the more I debate it, the less likely I will to get it. And out of the two tattoos that I have, 50% of them I regret. Not a good track record. So Sapporo is the only ramen shop in the area, and it is about 60 miles north. That just means you need more. I I did have an idea, even out the ratio. So after Bourdain died, I I did want to get a tattoo, kind of commemorate the guy. He was a fan of tattoos, and I wanted to get a like a chef's knife, and then under it, um, cook free or die, and then put a semicolon behind it. Of course, the semicolon is for suicide awareness. And that brings me to another topic. Why is it all the people that I admire, the ones who I respect and become fascinated by, also end up committing suicide. That's how their lives end up ending. And that's always bothered me. Because he's not the first one in my lifetime to die that way. People in the past, like, you know, Hemingway, of course, being very well known. But that was, he had four members of his family within three generations that their lives ended that way. But there was Bourdain. Uh, oh man, there's been several members of my family too that that's how things turned out. Close friends of mine. Just not a good situation. And it's very depressing to think about. And as somebody who's dealt with depression on and off, it's kind of discouraging, you know? Like, you don't want to think that you'll ever be in that situation or get there. Depression is a bitch, it takes the ones we love. Yeah. And I think the one thing that bothered me the most about Bourdain was, you know, 10 years ago, he's doing these interviews and he would always say, I can't do anything stupid. I have a kid now. I have to clean up my act. I'm not eating sushi off of naked chicks. And that's like where I'm at now. So I don't want to imagine myself 10 years from now thinking I'd be in a similar state. That's kind of what scares me about all that. So today, I met with a woman that I was contacted through after an article was written about my antique booth. And she sold me three typewriters that her parents had owned, and also a calculating machine that was built by Olivetti that she just gave me. She didn't want to, never seen one before. Actually looks kind of cool. If you're familiar with Olivetti's, highly desirable brand. Well built, but a pain in the ass to work on. So I watched this movie recently. It was called Revenge. The previews look good. Thought it was going to be something interesting. Whoever directed it, hopefully, will never make another movie again. Um, like half the dialogue was Italian, the other half was in English. It never really explained where it was taking place. And out of the four characters in the movie, I hated all of them. And they tried to make one of them into the hero. Of course, it was the woman. I disliked her from the very beginning. I disliked her throughout all of her supposed heroism. Honestly, they could have killed her off like halfway through the movie, and I probably wouldn't have cared. And honestly, when it comes to like Netflix, there hasn't really been anything good that I've wanted to see on there. I don't know if you guys have any suggestions. I'm hoping for another season of Ugly Delicious, but I haven't heard Dave Chang talk about doing another season. So who knows? Maybe it's just a one-shot thing. I don't think there's any new episodes of Chef's Table. Sons of Anarchy. Yes, I have. And you know what? I think I got through the first 3 or 4 seasons and I stopped. And I'll explain why. Um, there was the part where, first of all, I think it was season 3 that had like the really good end where like, what, 3, 4 people were murdered. There was that one chick that was blasted through the back of the head. Um, by one of the guys. There was the other like Irish dude that was killed with the knives. Like it just had a very satisfying ending. And then the next season, I think it was the next season, like they had gotten into the porn industry. They had legitimate legal money coming in, and then I forget the actor's name, the dad, the patriarch. Basically, like, nope, we're not doing this anymore. We're running guns. And I'm like, okay, moron, why are you not doing both? Because you can use the other one to launder the money that you get from the guns, still appear legit, and less likely to get busted. Meanwhile, all your guys are like having a shit ton of fun. But no, um, that is not how things went. So um, I also found out later on a couple of the characters I like died. Characters' decisions got wonky. Yeah, no kidding. Now, it might have made sense if it was like, they're a bunch of drug addicts and, they weren't thinking right and they're also running meth or something crazy like that. But no, just poorly made decisions for absolutely no reason that didn't make any sense. I got lost somewhere in season 3, but at the time I was hanging out with actual bikers, crushing a bottle of Jack every day. What was the rest of that? I kept blacking out at the same episode and gave up. Oh, Ziggy Num Nums, thank you for your food porn. It was amazing. Yeah. I also, the ending of Sons of Anarchy had been spoiled for me, so I wasn't really thrilled to go back and ever finish it. And I don't know. There was, who was it? There was somebody that was trying to talk about the symbolism on how Jack's how the ending went with him. I don't want to spoil it for anybody else who wants to go back, but um, that didn't make any sense to me either. Because here's this guy who's always reading his dad's journals, and it's all a Shakespeare play by the end. Oh, sad and depressing, and even though you love the story, you hate the ending. Except for A Midsummer Night's Dream. Um, that is one by Shakespeare that I think is classic. It's been redone a couple times. Neil Gaiman did his own rendition of it. Uh, yeah, Shakespeare. Are they still debating as to whether or not Shakespeare was still just one guy or if he was several? I always felt like that was a dumb argument or debate. They're like, for his time period, he was just writing too well. It was too good. Okay, they didn't have television back then. There was no distractions. People were able to make higher quality stuff than they do today. I heard he wrote the Bible. No, that was Jesus. Duh. Yeah, there's a book with some editing problems. Of course, my bad. Beardless Gnome Joe. Oh, I am sorry. My phone is telling me Jesus delivers my avocados. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, I know that guy. Actually, I think he also has 12 brothers. I'm not sure. It's a big family. So, unfortunately, I am at 15%. I was hoping to make this short anyways, so I'm going to have to end this live feed, finish this delicious glass of Sizer by my lonesome. Ziggy Num Nums, thank you again for that delicious food porn video that you made. Uh, Maybe I'll make some tonkatsu this weekend. Um, Sounds like I'm gonna have some free time to do some stuff and get the pressure cooker out and have some fun with that. So, all right, guys. In the meantime, remember, take care of yourselves and keep on typing.